The nice thing about Google local service ads is that it only queues up a bid on behalf of your firm if they are searching for one of the bottom of the funnel things like I need an advisor, or I'm looking for an advisor.
Approach with caution, but we're going to try to lay it out today in terms of what is working and what you could consider if you want to layer this on top of overarching marketing strategy.
So one of the ways that we sort of like get around some of the unqualified, like the number of unqualified leads, is just picking the wealthiest zip codes within the city that we want to market to.
Hi folks, welcome back to another episode of Craft on Tap, where we talk about growth marketing for RIAs. Today we're going to talk about Google local service ads. We're going to talk about how they're different than Google ads in general, like what general Google ads mean, and what we're talking about today is more kind of a subset, if you will. Things to consider when you should use these, when you should consider using these ads, best practices, and some things we've seen with clients in our own, kind of marketing strategy using these ads to supplement all the other content marketing work that we're doing. So that said, Faustin, let's get into it. What's on your chest, man? What do you want to share about Google local service
Well, hold on.
ads?
I think it's important. Like we've said a lot of times in our past episodes about the value of ads, right? And not starting with them first, and how you can burn a lot of money with ads unless you put a lot of different work into the fundamentals. So just to clarify, Stephen, right? Like we're not saying go full bore into local services ads, right? That's definitely not what we're advocating for.
We're not ads guys all of a sudden. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not an ads agency for financial advisors, all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I don't know how long ago that was. There's a podcast on what we did on paid ads, like kind of when you should use them. 95% of the time, you should shy away from them and kind of approach with caution. Because a lot of times what we said, I'll just try to summarize that one real quick. Just a lot of times what we said is people start there, looking for a silver bullet. And, thinking, okay, dollar in, how many dollars do I get out? It should be pretty simple. The ROI is easier to track. That is true. But, if I spend 10 grand a month on ads, how many leads do I get? And then how many of those are qualified and how many can I convert? And then, what does that give me in terms of, annual revenue per client and then lifetime value, et cetera, et cetera. That all is a pretty simple formula. And a lot of firms have tried that and then been very frustrated when it hasn't worked out and the ROI has not been positive. And so what we do is we caution there, like if you're going to think about ads, you have to think about, the 100 other things behind just the ad campaign itself, the experience, where you bring the lead to your website, the lead magnet, the follow-up, what types of leads you're targeting and whether those are a good fit for your firm or not, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a word of caution with ads and what we talked about in that previous episode. But today it's kind of like a subset of Google ads. We're going to talk about local service ads where we have seen some success.
Yeah.
Again, approach with caution, but we're going to try to lay it out today in terms of, what is working and what you could consider if you want to layer this on top of, kind of a overarching marketing strategy.
Yeah, well said. I think the impetus for us discussing it is, we've been doing so much work to put our clients in a good position for SEO, GEO purposes, right? We have our various controversial opinions around AI search and some of the things that we've shared in previous episodes, but we do want to put our clients in as good of a position as possible if behavior continues to change and more people are starting to use, ChatGPT and some other LLMs. And Google overall, like just in transitioning more and more, we just had a new SimilarWeb report come out across all of, all industry. It's industry agnostic. And it was sharing that, more and more search queries are leading to Google AI overviews, right? And so as we've done all of this work, right, one of the big pieces to ensure that your brand for your firm is showing up in bottom of the funnel queries, like I need a financial advisor who's best for concentrated stock, right? Helping me diversify from, highly concentrated stock, or I need a financial advisor in the Columbus, Ohio area. One of the things that's really important is Google reviews and your reputation online. And so, local service ads are a good sort of complementary piece, especially as you start to work more on your Google business profile. right? And so just to quickly like differentiate this from just Google Ads in general, Google Ads, a really simplified way of saying it, is really focused around keyword searches, and for you and your different content pages or your homepage or your navigation pages or however you want to set it up, being one of those top blue links. And so we're not going to talk about that right now. Google service ads are more focused on localized searches that are really like bottom of the funnel queries. So to use a different industry, the last time you had something break in your house that you needed an electrician, or the last time you had a plumbing issue, you know about this, Stephen, and you wanted to find the best possible plumber, you typed in, hey, plumber near me, or I need to find the best electrician in the Tampa, Florida area, or I need to find the best possible HVAC technician in San Carlos, California. Local Google service ads are just that, right? They try to position your firm at the top of those kinds of queries for the financial advisor space. So for people that are, I'm in Columbus, Ohio, as I've said, people that are saying financial advisor near me, or best financial advisor near me, or financial advisor in Columbus, Ohio, you can run ads to show up at the top. And if you do this right now, like as you're listening and you try it out and you type in financial advisor near me, and it's within the normal business hours, what you'll see is a different kind of link that comes up. It has a headshot of somebody in the firm and it says sponsored results. And you'll see the actual Google business profiles of the firm show up with the reviews, and then you can feature a couple of different options of like how many years in business you've been, or if you're a woman-owned business, and so that'll come up right to the top. And so we do see an opportunity, right? This complementary nature of, hey, you have been working hard on your business profile to get more reviews, right? So that you put yourself in a better position for local searches, but then also for AI searches. You can expedite your firm getting in front of more people, right? And getting those new reviews in front of more people if you spend some money to show up at the top of these searches. Stephen, does that make sense? Sort of the difference of like the localized Google ads versus the overarching Google ads?
Yeah, I think so. Just think of it. There's different kind of core sections when you type in something like I just typed in financial advisor for business owners, St. Pete, Florida, where I am in St. Pete, Florida. It's about 150 degrees here right now. And so there's different these core sections that kind of pop up, and I'm sure everybody's seen these, but yeah, just lay it out. I think that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. So some of the pros for this are that it's guaranteed to match you up with like bottom of the funnel queries. So, one of the challenges of running ads on Facebook or LinkedIn or even Google Ads is that you're trying to align content with the right people, and those people aren't always ready to buy. I guess I would say, like, somebody, if you're running Google Ads and you want to like concentrated stock options and how to diversify, that doesn't mean they're necessarily looking for a financial advisor. So even though you get the content in front of them, they click into your link, they're just going to read, and you have to convert them in some other way. Similarly, on LinkedIn, if you want to run like a really fun campaign where you're trying to increase your brand awareness in a particular audience, you're interrupting their flow, and so they're going to maybe think of you and take some action, but it doesn't mean that they're ready to buy. The nice thing about Google local service ads is that it only queues up a bid on behalf of your firm if they are searching for one of the bottom of the funnel things, like I need an advisor, or I'm looking for an advisor. So it allows you to line up sort of the intent of buyers that are actively looking for someone with your firm. And so I think that's the biggest pro, right? Some cons of it, and this is something that we found time and time again, is that those people that are looking for the bottom of the funnel queries are often not qualified, right? For a lot of the firms that we work with who are looking for million, 2 million and up prospects. A lot of the times, the people that are searching for a financial advisor near me are looking for debt consolidation, or looking for help from their mortgage, right? Or looking for options
Student loan advice.
Save themselves from the financial situation that they're in. And so there's oftentimes a lot of unqualified leads that happen as a result, and you have to pay for all of those unqualified leads. Google local service ads used to have a great way to dispute whether or not the leads that you get charged for are actually qualified for your space. But recently they've implemented, you can like flag it, but it doesn't mean that you're always going to get the money that you paid for that original bid back. So that would be like a main con. And this is a con that we've seen time and time again. You can almost guarantee that when you start running these ads, you're going to get a lot of unqualified calls, right?
Yeah.
But it's just one of the things you have to weigh, like pros and cons. Our friend of the podcast, Kendra Wright, would say, she refers to some tactics as like icing on the cake. And I do think that it's a tactic, icing on the cake, right? It can't be your foundational marketing strategy to run these, but it can expedite, getting your brand in front of more qualified searches.
Yeah.
And that takes us to some good use cases, right, Stephen? Like we talked a little bit, like we have some firms that we've been working with for a while, and they're starting to expand, right, into new spaces, like new offices in exciting new locations, new markets, and they're starting to hire people. And they're like, hey, we need some more at bats, right? We need some more leads in this local area. And this is a great use case, right, to expedite that, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think well said with icing on the cake. If you want to flip that, if you want to say like, okay, where could it be like the main, marketing tactic that I'm using to like generate new conversations, and more at bats? Maybe the firm who's going after like the mass affluent, I don't know, somebody like that. Like if you have a lower level service offering, that's just not our space where we do marketing for our RIAs, but that's kind of what I think of. So, but with that in mind, maybe you have, younger advisors in the office, or you have a new office location you want to expand to, or maybe you're kind of testing, you have one remote advisor who's, in, I don't know, Charlotte, North Carolina, and you're like, oh, maybe we should put some more, resources down towards him or her. Maybe we build some AI pages that are all about Charlotte and all about your niche in Charlotte and all about your service offerings in Charlotte. And then we could supplement it with these local service ads and kind of see what we're drumming up. Maybe that would be a use case where you could make the case like, yeah, this would be smart. Well, let's put, I don't know, 2 to 4 grand a month into Google local service ads, let it run for 3-4 months, and then, kind of take a step back and really like analyze it and see, what happened. How many impressions did we get? How many click-throughs did we get? How many calls did we get? How many of those calls were, qualified versus unqualified? Did any of them convert? Are any of them still in the pipeline? Have we nurtured those? And then, you have some good data and some good conversation to have at that point. So I guess that's kind of how I would try to approach it, just broadly speaking.
Yeah. No, I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense. You do have to have a business profile in the local area, right? And you can't use a PO box for a Google business profile. So you actually do have to have an office. So that's a little bit of a downside of running the ads. Like you have to physically be present in order to do it. And then I would say that in some of the the bigger cities, it's pretty competitive. You have the creative plannings that have offices in every single city, it feels like, in the United States, that are all running a lot of ads. But still, in some of the spots, especially in some of like the suburbs, the wealthier suburbs of some of the bigger cities, you can run ads just for that area. So another pro of the Google local service ads is you can pick the specific zip codes that you want to show the ads to in terms of where people are coming from. So one of the ways that we sort of like get around some of the unqualified, like the number of unqualified leads, is just picking the wealthiest zip codes within the city that we want to market to. And so in that way, you sort of filter out a lot of the debt consolidation needs, I guess is what the gentle way that I'll say it. And you just put it within the most competitive area. So again, the con of that is that a lot of people are doing that. So you're all competing for the same wealthier group. But again, it's something to try. It's something to try to help, especially if you have a really vibrant local page for that headquartered city that you're trying to run those ads to, and you've really been emphasizing Google reviews. It's a great way to sort of like add and enhance what you're doing from a local level.
So let me try to summarize that. So say
Yeah.
it's like your firmname.com /Charlotte. We'll use Charlotte again.
Yeah.
And then you have that page on your website. It's all about, your work in Charlotte, your team in Charlotte, your services in Charlotte, your niche offering and everything you all the challenges you solve for that niche, et cetera, et cetera. That's all built out. You have other pages that are kind of feeding that page,
Yeah.
ideally. And then you also have a Google profile that has, ideally, you have a Google profile that says, your firm dash Charlotte. And that
Yes.
has a bunch of 5-star reviews, ideally over 10. Some of our clients have over 150 5-star reviews. Some are just kind of getting started. We're running review campaigns, trying to amp that up. But 10 to 60 is where we see a lot of people have, in terms of number of 5-star reviews, and a good presence there. You can add to that profile. You can add pictures. You can add information on your services, your office hours, things like that. That's what you're saying. You've got all that built out, right? And you have
Yeah.
the website piece, you have the Google profile piece. Then it's time to layer on Google local service ads, because then you kind of have this, they're all complementing each other, right? They're all you're all flowing in the same direction. Now we're into Charlotte. And then one other thing, Charlotte has, high income suburbs areas, right? And then lower income suburb areas. So you're just trying to pick out, okay, what Ballantyne area, Glenville Matthews Road, all around there. That seems pretty nice. I don't know. I've been
Yeah.
around there. Target those areas, and then target less where kind of the students are going to live, like the kids fresh out of college. Probably want to avoid those, unless there's some cool, big tech companies moving in and you're trying to target them, whatever the case may be, but you can pin those down, right? So hopefully
Yeah.
that summarizes what you're saying, right? In
Yeah.
terms of targeting. Okay.
Yeah, it does. And again, it kind of blends nicely with the focus on AI search and getting some local pages up, right? So it's just it's a nice complementary tactic, I would say. Now, a couple of things to note. It is an absolute pain to get set up. So just so everyone knows that, in terms of
Awesome.
getting verified, yeah. So not just if you're trying to open a new office, getting your local new business profile set up as separate from wherever your other headquarters are. You have to get it all verified, take a nice video. Gone are the days where you could just have a postcard mailed in a lot of cases for our clients, and you just type in the code. Now you have to take a video. So from an agency perspective, it's a little tricky. We have to queue up our clients with the ability to get onto their business profile and take a 2-minute video of them walking in and showing the office.
Proving to Google that they're a real human with a real
Yeah.
physical space. Yeah.
Proving
Okay.
to whoever international person is reviewing these, from the support
Yeah.
level. And again, support is really tricky too, to be able to get any sort of response. So that's one thing, to actually get the
Tricky
business
just means terrible. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
I'm trying to be a little bit more
How
diplomatic.
many hours would you say goes into setting up a Google profile and then verifying it, and then and then separately kind of getting a Google local service ad set up?
Yeah, I would say days, weeks, depending on how long, and you can get the verification piece set up.
Okay, just a lot of
So
back and forth with
yeah, a
some
little bit
support
back
person
and forth.
abroad.
And so and I'll say too that so when you're actually in the ads, when you're setting up the ads, you have to verify everything, right? So we have some businesses, some firms that have DBAs that they're going under different, the name of the firm is different than the name of the actual LLC. So Google has to verify all of that. And then you have to verify licenses for the particular individual advisors that you want to feature on the top. Because if you notice, if you guys do this, you'll see an individual that's featured. You won't see the firm. The firm name will
Yeah.
be there with the reviews, but then you have an individual that you want to position. Whoever your managing partner is, or your senior, whoever, I hate to say it's whoever has a great headshot too is usually a good person to, feature at the top to get people to click into it. But yeah, you have to verify the license information, that they're registered within the state. Google will verify that. So that can be a really tough part to, the advisors themselves have to go through an individual verification process where they have to show their ID. It kind of feels like you're getting a passport or something like that. So when you finally crack the nut of getting inside of Google, then you can run them and you'll be okay. But there's a little bit of a headache just to get it up and running. So I just wanted to share that as an important qualifier.
Which I guess is kind of good if you think about it in the long run, just because it eliminates all the people who just don't go through all the steps. And I mean, for the consumer, right, for for the prospect, for the retail investor, it should be a better experience. That's what they're trying to That's what they're trying to foster, the good, fine folks at Google. So I guess that makes sense, like running you through all the rigmarole. Yeah, if I look at, just online, I type in financial advisor for business owner St. Pete. I see a couple, back to what you're saying before, and kind of like the sections that show up. There's a couple sponsored financial planners. Um, Good job, you guys. I don't know these folks, John, and I'm seeing business names, and then I also see like this guy gives his personal name, and then I see sponsored results, Mercer Advisors, and Graphite Financial. And then I see an AI overview, and then it gives me more links, different firms in here in the AI overview. And then I see, keep going down, I see the good old school blue links. Like that's what you're saying is a very small percentage of search traffic, especially with this type of search, is going to those actual blue links, like what we used to
Yeah.
do. And then I see, a map, and I see four more different financial advisory firms that are on here, all showing their name, website, directions. They're not showing, like the first section at the very top shows me like a little box I can click to basically like message the advisor, and then another box that I can get their phone number. So if I click on one of those, they're going to be charged, so I could run up John's bill here and just click that button, and he's paying for each of those clicks, basically, right? For every time somebody tries to message him through this mechanism or gets that phone number and then calls. So
Yeah, it's usually a call that has a voicemail attached to it, or if there's a conversation, then it'll usually track it in Google as a charged lead. So,
okay,
yeah, to your point, we didn't talk about this yet, but you can choose as a business if you want to receive messages or if you just want to get calls. We've typically erred on the side of calls. The drawback of that is you have to have somebody answering the phone who
I was
can
gonna say,
take us.
what should advisors do then? Yes,
Yeah,
how do you prepare yourself? How do you make the
yeah.
most of this? You're gonna
So I
pay
would
for
say,
the click or for the
yeah.
call.
So, it sets up a Google tracking number that then links to wherever phone number you have on your Google business profile. So sometimes that's the client service associate, right, who answers those calls, heads up. So they need to be equipped and trained to be able to handle these incoming calls, which are often incoherent, I guess I would say, because all the calls are recorded. So, compliance has to be known about, they got to know about this too, that it does like track all these incoming calls that come directly from the Google ad. So there is a recording. It is kind of nice to hear the recording too, because you can see where there are gaps if the service person that answers doesn't know how to field the call correctly. So I think just from a training perspective, being able to help whoever is answering the call, first of all, answer the phone. Okay. Answering the
Don't let
phone
it
is
go to
important.
voicemail. Yeah,
Yeah, there's
yeah,
nothing that frustrates me more than seeing like a call, like it's a new lead that comes in and then, it just rings and nobody answers it. So that's important. And then number two, training the person to be able to route and get their contact information because we have their number. You don't always know their name, right, when they call in. And so it's important to get their name and your email because then we can nurture them. Then it's worth the charge lead a lot of times, especially
mm,
if they're qualified. So that's like an important training step. And then if you are going to use some messaging, then you got to have somebody on the other end that's ready to receive the message, which sometimes for our firms is a little challenging to do. So just some important things to keep in mind when you're going to set it up so that, when leads start coming in, which they will, which that firm that you were just talking about that has 150 reviews, they've been using them now. Like we got them set up on local services ads, right? Like 3 to 5 months ago, and they've been getting leads all over the place, right?
yeah.
Qualified, unqualified, which, it's nice to have the 150 5-star reviews up at the top of everyone's list. So people just need to be trained about what happens when they come in and to expect it. I guess that would be a big
Yeah.
thing.
I mentioned this on the last episode. If you haven't listened to that one, just that the firm that we just mentioned with the 150 5-star Google reviews, like they've had a presence in this area for a very long time. They've built up their Google profile, obviously, to 150. That's quite a lot. They've got like local pages on their website. They have like that foundation that we talked about. And so then when we released, unleash the fury of Google local service ads, they're well positioned to win some of those calls. The other piece of it is it fits their business model. Like they are accepting of clients who are less than $1 million in investable assets, depending on the fit.
Yeah.
Not all firms are like that. So, it opens up the opportunities for them versus some other firms who might be pickier for whatever reason. Every firm has the reasons, and it's all part of the kind of overarching business strategy. This firm we're talking about, like they got a call. This guy had 250 grand, became a client. Another one was 800 grand, became a client. This is happening like quickly. This happened, I'd say, within like 2 or 3 weeks of us setting up. They told us they got 2 of those calls. Like, we talked to them on a Wednesday, and they had those calls on a Monday and Tuesday. Had several others that weren't like ready to go right then, but they were pretty good leads. So they were pretty encouraged by it, just coming out of the gate. But again, they have that kind of infrastructure set up, both from the marketing side and then from their office side. Like, they have the right people answering the phone. They know where to route them to. Everything is like everything was set up kind of like a system, right? So we're just kind of piling more on top of the funnel that way, and then it just kind of falls through the system, and the leads are getting routed. The people are, the prospects are getting the attention they ask for, and then if it's the right fit, they plug them into the client service model. So yeah, it's been pretty encouraging as a nice tactic to kind of layer on everything else that we're doing. Like I said, content marketing wise, social, video, website work, email marketing work, all those things. Those are kind of like, we look at those as kind of the cake, and then now we're looking at local service ads as some really tasty chocolate icing that we're putting on top. So
Love that. Yeah, I think just final point, the sales structure is really important. So if you do get someone qualified, right, where are you routing them? Like, what's the next step? You got this at bat. Like, what happens next, and what comes next, and figuring out exactly like how to follow up with them, right? If they're not ready to make a move or schedule a new call, like, are you going to consistently follow up
then what?
calling them? Like, did you get their email in that initial call? Are you nurturing them? Not everyone's ready. The nice thing is, right, they're actively looking for an advisor. Doesn't mean that they're necessarily ready to jump into a full discovery meeting. So you just got to be able to nurture them so that charged bid amount that you're going to be charged for is actually worth something.
Yeah, like as a leadership team, even just sketching it out on a piece of paper, like if it is a qualified person that we talk to, how many calls are we committing to? How many outbound calls are we going to commit to, as far as like calling the person back at what cadence? So do we call them back the next day? Is that annoying? Do we call them back 3 days later, a week later? All that. And then if we get their email, like you said, ideally we grab their email and we can send them some follow-up information. Then what? How many times do we email them, and where does that fall in the cadence too? Do we email them like right after the call? Is it a day later? Is it both? Is it, we email them 5 times in the next 2 weeks and then we let them go? We email them 5 times in the next 2 weeks and then we put them on kind of our, monthly drip email newsletter. Like, what's the plan? Because these are going to start to rack up. And then again, yeah, you want to capture, there's some stuff that you can capture kind of on the back end, like people who say, yeah, I'm interested, maybe not, maybe later, maybe not now, I'll think about it. What happens to that person like 4 or 5 months from now? Are they still somewhere in the marketing, campaign that we can kind of reach out, get in front of them again, and maybe it is a better time for them, or maybe they've had some kind of trigger event that makes it a better time for them to become a client. Think about all that, because it can really start to compound. So if you have that, again, I go back to the word infrastructure. You got to have a little marketing infrastructure in place, a little business development infrastructure in place, and then this can be a really fun tactic to layer in. So
yeah, fun. You won't usually talk about fun in marketing, but it is fun to run these kinds of
this is
ads,
supposed to be
right?
fun, right? Yeah, we're supposed to. This is all supposed to be fun. So
as opposed to all
gotta
the
remind
work that
ourselves
goes
of that
into
sometimes.
like developing really nice content and sharing it out, there is something nice about getting an ad out there and just letting it do its
Yeah.
work,
Yeah, just seeing that beauty out in the
just seeing
internet,
that
just like,
beauty, and then like
oh, it's just working for
analyzing,
you.
just analyzing the people that are coming in and saying, oh, that's a terrible lead, or like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome, we just signed that person.
Yeah.
So there is an element of fun to it. I agree.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening. Hopefully some of that was helpful, if not insightful, and we'll be back with more soon.